The average executive, according to Forbes, spends about 36% of their work week on administrative tasks, checking emails, scheduling appointments, following up on calls. But you can delegate it for 10, 12 bucks an hour to somebody else to take it off your plate so that you can lower the waterline like below your nose so that you can look around and see what else needs to be done.
Josh Thomas, the founder and CEO of VAIQ, renowned for pioneering AI-powered legal automation that frees professionals from administrative work,
helping law firms and businesses streamline operations, boost productivity, and focus on the work that truly matters.
They want their problem solved, and they want confidence that it's actually going to work this time. Anytime I'm placing a VA, we're going to manage them daily. When you find that thing that's the right way, it doesn't matter. It's like it's not a risk anymore. It's just a matter of leverage.
What would your 18-year-old self be shocked to hear today?
How little hair I have left.
Josh, you basically place a virtual assistant. Explain to the audience a little bit of, like how does that work, and then what do they usually do for the business owners you place them with?
Yeah, you got it. So there's a big problem in the industry, and placing virtual assistants is not something that's new. It's been around for a long time. A lot of times it's a busy executive. They have too much on their plate. They're trying to level up. They know they need to hire somebody, and they're not quite ready to hire an American and pay like $5,000 or $6,000 a month, but they need it done.
Yeah.
So once you get to a certain point and you have your own HR department, yeah, hire an American, it's fine. But in that in-between stage, you really need a little bit of extra labor, and you don't want to pay too much. So we go to other countries and we look for better deals, favorable exchange rates, and you can get a great college-educated, highly experienced person in some other country for a lot less than you would spend here in the States.
Right.
The problem is that's only part of the equation. Like, you can go and get the best possible person, but if you don't put them in the right environment, they're still going to fail. You might as well just set your money on fire, So if we get the right person and we get the right environment, then you're in a chance. You have a chance to succeed with that. It's kind of like if I got a guy with no legs and said, all right, man, we're going to train hard and we're going to win this 100-meter dash. We're going to win. It doesn't really matter how hard we train.
Right.
That dude's not winning.
Yeah.
Same way if we take Usain Bolt and we stick him in a padded room with, potato chips and fried chicken to eat for 2 months, he ain't winning either.
Yeah.
Right? He's the perfect person, but if he's not in the environment to succeed, it won't happen. And a lot of people miss that environment. They're like, all right, I'm just going to hire some Filipino and I'm going to give them a bunch of tasks, and they're going to be like, yes, sir, yes, sir. And then they're going to totally fail. Literally talked to somebody this morning who did that.
Yeah.
And they're like, what didn't happen?
Yeah. I would say most business owners, probably you've dealt with this, is they think hiring is like you hire them and that's the end of it. It's like, I hired you, you do this, it'll be perfect, I never have to manage. Does that kind of seem to be the pattern?
Yeah, and it's not their fault. Like, you're an entrepreneur. You're really good at being an accountant or a coach, or a fitness guy or something like that. You don't want to train and manage people. It's not your skill set. It's not something you've practiced. It's not like you don't have a lot of experience in it. And so it falls off. A lot of times you just don't know you need to do it, or you just hate it and you avoid it. And then meanwhile, this poor person on the Zoom call or whatever is just being forgotten, and you're just burning cash.
What's the average VA do? So if I hire a VA from you, what usually are they doing? I know there's a lot of stuff they could do, but just so someone has an idea, like, what does a VA do, or what are they supposed to do?
Yeah, so typically the average executive, according to Forbes, spends about 36% of their work week on administrative tasks. So checking emails, scheduling appointments, following up on calls, that sort of thing. That's 15 hours a week, 3 hours a day. You can delegate pretty much all of that to a VA immediately and save that time. And so, for instance, if you're making, like, if you pay yourself $10,000 a month, your hourly rate's like $60 an hour. $20,000 a month, it's $120 an hour. So that's stuff that you're doing right now and paying yourself like $100 an hour to do.
Right.
But you can delegate it for like $10, $12 an hour to somebody else to take it off your plate. The thing that we found is the most valuable to somebody that's looking to expand is what we just call the operations generalist. And this is somebody that's quick, they're proactive, they're organized, they're responsible, they're pleasant to be around, and they're going to pick up all of these little tasks that you need to get off your plate so that you can lower the water line like below your nose so that you can look around and see what else needs to be done. Yeah. That's like, if you don't have that person, hire that person first, because they're going to give you the relief and the clarity that you can look around and say, okay, now I need a video editor. Now I need a developer, or whatever that specialist role is. So it's just a way to kind of lower the water line and get somebody to get out of the admin stuff so that they could actually focus on running their business.
To the business owner who are hiring these VAs, let's say most of them are they mostly based in the Philippines on average?
Not really. Philippines is great. There's you can get a really good deal. The exchange rates are awesome. And I mean, I talked to somebody that got a great VA for like $2 an hour or something. It's like ridiculous. Yeah. That's nothing. Yeah. But there's some cultural challenges in the Philippines. It's a very kind of, I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but it's a very kind of like I want to please you kind of culture. Right. What I've found a lot of success, and I have 3 Filipinos on staff, so I'm not bashing them, but you got to be careful. Where I found a lot of success is recruiting from Central America and South America. Okay. There's some advantages there. It's a similar time zone. The culture is much more aligned to the States than somewhere in Asia. Mm-hmm. And the people are they're used to working hard, 10, 12 hours a day, and just not quitting. And they're very aggressive about that. And they show up, they're super loyal, and they don't know how to not work hard. And so we find a lot of success in Central America there, but the Philippines is great as long as you have the right person. Yeah,
I was gonna say that was gonna be my next question: is how do you kind of work the time zones? Because I know technically they are working at night, but it's been my experience that sometimes that just doesn't work out so well because you're asleep and they're kind of by themselves. They don't have a lot of management, and then you start checking stuff and maybe it's not done right. So that's actually more in alignment with what I would say is like we found actually. I want to say most of my good VAs are from they're from Trinidad and Tobago. Ironically, it's like in the Caribbeans, but it works out super well. So for anyone who's, wondering, how did you get into this? How long have you been into doing this?
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, and I was a really bad one for a lot of those, just and I'm not going to lie. And then every once in a while, a blind squirrel finds a nut and you figure some things out, right? So I find a line in being this kind of business consultant, building out sales teams and processes for different clients. And that worked for me and made a bunch of money. But what I realized really quickly was there's way too much paperwork. And if I'm replying to an email or if I'm scheduling an appointment, it's just faster if I do it myself. And you're right, but every time you do it yourself, you're stealing from your future self because that's that's time that they could be doing something way more valuable. But you're too busy, like, I'll just do it right now. And so I knew I had to get that stuff off my plate. So I hired my first VA like 10 years ago. And I don't know what the hell I'm doing, man. Like, I'm not organized. I'm aggressive and like I know where I need to go, but like it's kind of a mess. And so I needed to hire people that were the opposite of me. And I also wasn't a good manager or leader either. It's like, I'll just air my dirty laundry, But the thing that I needed to create a structure that was going to operate whether I was involved or not. Yeah. And so I set it up to where, what can I do? I can meet with them every morning and say, this is what I think we need to do. And then I can meet with them at the end of the day and say, did you do any of that stuff that I said? And then the rest of the day, I'm free to do whatever I want, And so I created these little bookends on how to manage a team. And it started working. It was like, oh, okay, I'm catching anything that goes sideways during the day. I'll catch it by 4:00, right. And then I can make some adjustments from there. And so I started running the team like that for years. And when I would meet somebody, I would be like, yeah, I've got 10 employees. And they're like, you have 10 employees? How do you manage those guys? I'm like, I don't know. We meet them in the morning and tell them what to do, and then they do stuff. I don't know. And then we check in at the end of the day. It's fine. There's a little more involved in that. But people started asking for my help in placing a VA for them and saying the same things, which is basically, man, I hired somebody and then I forgot about them, or they didn't show up. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't ask any questions. and I just got rid of them. It was a waste of money. And that's where I realized, like, that's the gap. The gap is not just the right person, but that person needs to be in a supportive environment where they have guidance and management and that sort of thing. So anytime I'm placing a VA, like, we're going to manage them daily. We're going to meet with them every day. We're going to do EOD reports. Whether you do them or not, it's fine. You run your business however you see fit, but we're going to make sure that your talent's performing no matter what.
So even when you place these VAs, you're actually kind of managing them for the business owner. You're not just like placing the VA and that's the end of it. You still manage them.
Yeah, I've found that for me, that's the only way that I can ensure I'm going to give you a good service.
Right.
Because otherwise I'm just relying on some random person in another country to represent me. But like, no, I'm not going to take that variable. I'm going to, like, come in here. I picked you because you're the right person, but I'm going to make sure you win so that we all win.
What were you doing for your business before you transitioned to this? Like, obviously, like, you were doing it was working, and then you kind of saw that there were other business owners who need it. Before you transitioned to this, what were you doing before that?
So I billed myself as a kind of a fancy pants business consultant for years, and that was a nice way of saying, I worked with whoever would pay me.
Gotcha.
Okay. Most of my experience was coming in and building, growing, and managing sales teams, and that usually ended up with me getting into kind of an operations manager role. Ironically, because I'm not that great at operations, but I got systems. And my systems were way better than all of my clients' systems. And so I kind of became the default operations guy. And that's when I realized, like, there's so many guys out there like me, like you, and you probably elevated way above this now. But there's this gooey spot where, like, you hit something, you're making money, cash is coming in, and you're trying to get to level, you're at level 1, you're trying to get to level 2, and you can't do it by yourself. And you're like, crap, what do I do? That's where you need some systems in place. And most people they don't have anything. And so they just wing it, and they throw dirt against the wall. They buy stuff, they spend money. And when that doesn't work, they just hire somebody to help them build some systems.
The average entrepreneur you're working with, would you say they're like, 0 to 10K or 10 to 20K, or like, are they higher? Like, are they kind of early in maybe the hiring phase? Like, they haven't really done it before?
Sometimes I would say that they're either hiring their first person, or they've tried hiring VAs before and failed. Maybe they have a small team, but under 10K, you got to pay them. So if you're trying to pay your own bills, maybe VA is not the right thing for you. Like, I can't take you from 0 to 1. You got to get there, but I can take you from 1 to like 5.
Got it.
And then there's some point where if you get big enough and there's enough momentum, you're going to want to start bringing HR in-house, And so I'm there to kind of serve that specific gap of, I don't know how to build systems. I don't know how to hire and manage people. I need some help with that. I can come in and do that pretty economically. And then when you get past it, that's when you want to, like, hire a COO and, get somebody to go out and recruit, like a headhunter or something like that.
How do you usually get clients? Because a lot of people be curious, like, okay, yeah, I understand what you do. You place VAs. On average, like, how do you get like a traditional client? What does that look like for you?
So we run ads to a VSL, and that's working really, really well right now. Wow. So it took a little bit of dialing in to get the message right. But fortunately, since I've been doing it myself, kind of ad hoc for 10 years, I had a pretty good idea of what the pain points were. And then once I started getting calls booked, I didn't close those initial calls, but I listened.
Right.
And I started paying attention because I noticed all of these trends. People were saying the exact same things. And so we just redid the VSL.
It's just smart marketing. So what are the biggest pain points? Someone who's like looking for your services, what are they usually bringing up the most?
A lot of people that we're getting now have tried hiring a VA in the past, and it just failed for the exact reasons I was saying before. Like, I literally this morning on the way here, I was having a conversation with someone, and they were saying, yeah, I got this friend, and he's from Bangladesh, and he gave me this Bangladeshi guy, and he sat with us all week, and he was like, oh yeah, no, I totally understand it, shadowed us, and he had no questions, and then he just, like, showed up and laid a turd when we gave him the work. and it's like that happens over and over and over again. If you've hired a VA, 10 times out of 10, you've had at least one bad experience. Right. And again, just like, hey, it's faster if I do it myself. You're right the first time. If you did that and it was a bad experience, it's not your fault the first time. But the second time it happens, it's definitely you, because like it's a systems problem. But that first time, sometimes you just got to get smacked and be like, oh, it's me. It's a systems problem. Now you got to fix it, because if you don't fix it, you're just wasting money.
Do you think it's usually a systems problem, or is it a hiring issue? So like they hire the wrong VA versus it's a system issue, or is like, no, any VA could kind of do it, but they don't have like a process or structure to it.
I'll take, I can't remember the exact James Clear quote, but it's along the lines of, you don't rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems. And I'll take an average, person with like literally zero experience, like a blank resume that can show up on time and ask questions and do the things that I tell them to do. I'll take that person every time, because I know I can put that person in a system and the system will make sure they don't fail. On the other hand, I can take virtuoso talent and bring them in, and maybe just from their talent alone they can produce some results, but over time, if they're not in a system, it's going to end badly. I mean, think about sales guys that you've hired. Like, think about those like super rock star guys that are like on another planet, and they'll go and produce for you for a while. But if you want them to last long term, they've got to live in a system of some sort.
Yeah. For these VAs, what's like a typical system, for example? I know that could probably vary per business owner, but is like, hey, we have a team meeting at this time, then they have to fill out these sheets and they have to look at these KPIs. Like, I'm assuming there's like some type of like generality across the board.
Yeah, I just call it bookend management, which is basically we do a daily huddle in the morning. We talk about what happened yesterday. What do we need to focus on today? What's the big picture for, the week or the month and the goals and that sort of thing? And then, here's your action items. And then during the day, regular communication on a platform like Slack or Microsoft Teams, whatever you want to use is fine. But that's where like I'm going to set up channels for specific projects, or I have a booking channel. And whenever I meet somebody like, oh, I'm having this podcast with Tanner, and Tanner said, let's meet next Tuesday. I'm going to go to my booking channel and say, book a meeting with Tanner next Tuesday. Here's his email. Or I've already got it, so they're going to go find it. So I got like a booking channel. I've got a task channel where it's like, hey, get Amanda to do XYZ. It's due Tuesday at 4. And I send that out. And then somebody else is going to handle that for me. I don't have to go into ClickUp or Monday or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't have to go and do that. I just tell somebody to do it and they take care of it. That's like during the day. And then the EOD, I actually have a meeting every day with my operations person, and she debriefs what the whole team did, what went right, what didn't get done, and then we figure out together what's tomorrow's agenda need to look like. And then that way it's like everything is like contained in this like 7-hour window. And so nothing major is going to fall out of that. And that helps protect me from, oh shit, we forgot to finish the funnel for James and it was due yesterday. I'm going to find that out by the end of the day,
Right. So you said earlier you've been in business about 20 years.
Yeah.
What are maybe some of the biggest lessons you've learned along the way? Because, most people, they probably think it's all roses and daisies all the time, but, it's up and down. So what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned from that?
Is this a G-rated podcast?
You say whatever you want. Go for it.
Ego is a motherfucker.
Yeah.
It will destroy you if you let it. And that's what, I opened this up by saying, I spent a lot of years being really bad. And it was because I believed I was really good and I didn't want to listen to anybody else. And that was the stupidest thing I could have done. I lost years of my life by just like, there's people like you out there. There's people like Hormozy, if you follow him, or whoever, that have gone down this road and figured things out and solved problems that you're trying to sit here and solve yourself. you don't have to do that, man. Just go and pay somebody else who's already done it to show you how. Like, buy their programs, sign up for their coaching, go visit them if they invite you to an event or something. Spend that time and just get into that environment where people have already done the things that you want to do. If I'd have done that in 2008, I would be in a completely different position now than I am right now. Ego is the worst killer of entrepreneurship and success.
So how many years did you wait? It sounds to me like you didn't hire anyone. How many years did you wait before you actually like started working with people, or you started looking into that?
Yeah, the main reason that I had an ego was I got a job at some call center for a while, and they taught me how to sell. I'm like, cool, because I used to be a teacher, and I got tired of that, so I quit. I got this job at like selling precious metals or something, and I had this amazing trainer, and he taught me how to sell. I'm like, this is great, but I hated selling gold and silver. That's for the birds, man. And then I got a call from, at the time I was following Perry Marshall.
Yeah.
You know who that is?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, so somebody from Perry's team called me because I had bought like a $1 thing or whatever. Right. And they were trying to sell me something. I'm like, man, I don't want to buy anything right now, but I'm working this call center. Like, I don't mind picking up the phone and calling if you got a job. And they're like, well, let me think about that. And a couple months later, I'm working for Perry Marshall. And I ended up working with him for 6 years. And it was life-changing, man. And the good thing about it is I had access to hundreds of thousands of dollars of education, consulting, training. I was running his events for years, like any kind of event that had 200-300 people. Like, I was putting that together. We hosted Richard Koch, who is the author of the 80-20 principle. I was basically his handler at the event, and it was just amazing. Like, I never wanted to leave. I was so happy. But I was just like a sales guy getting a salary and some commission. I wasn't like making money, but I had all this status, and that status fed my ego. And I'm like, I'm big shit, But I was like, I was bullshit. I wasn't big shit, And so I wasted years thinking that I was something that I wasn't because of who I was associated with. And that, kind of came to a natural like end after those 6 years. And then I'm like, well, now what am I going to do? And I didn't have an answer, and I had to go find it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it happens to all of us. I remember, I wanted to play in the NFL, took it all the way to D1 level, got hurt a bunch, probably wasn't good enough. And so like 22, I started trying to build a business, and that, was like my first start. And I remember the first 2 years, I didn't even know there was people you could pay. I didn't even know that was a thing. And then number 2, I just was like, I don't have money, so I can't pay. Like, that was just my mindset, And I remember when I turned 25, for some reason, as soon as I turned 25, I looked at my bank account, and the bank account was the same number it was 2 years ago. And I was like, yo, this is not working. And I'm running out of time, right? And I left school. I was going to graduate as an engineer. I had a year left, and I left. And I'm thinking, dude, I'd be making $100,000 a year right now. I'm making like nothing. I'm making like $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month. But that I'm glad it happened. I mean, but I look back at that too. It's like, if I had done that 2 years sooner, I probably would be in a little bit of a different spot. It's like not as long, but I think I agree with you. It's like ego's the enemy, right? There's that book, and we just tell ourselves like stories that like are not true or whatever. And I think a lot of times, at least for me in business, I don't, maybe it'll sound bad, but like I ignore my feelings a lot of times, because I think in business a lot of times it's like you do it or you don't. And a lot of people get very caught up in how they feel or like what's going on in their life. And I'm not saying you have to ignore your feelings all the time, but I'm just like, yeah, dude, like, but you got to do it. So I resonate kind of with what you said there. In terms of, you've been doing this for a while. So like in terms of values, do you have any non-negotiables or things you do? Like, is there any, for example, just like you cold plunges, or like, not that you have to, but is there anything that you, like, now that you've been doing this a while, it's like, I have to do these things and these things make me successful?
I think you're not allowed to do a cold plunge unless you like post and tell everybody that you're doing cold plunges.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't do any cold plunges. But I want to say something about this last comment that you made. It's really important. When you find the thing that you know you're supposed to be doing, when you find the thing that works, something changes within you. And I can say this from being that guy that was afraid to take the risk, from being that guy that, knew he was hot shit, but actually wasn't. I was always just a little scared, like, I've got this new idea. I don't know, maybe that'll work. It probably won't work. I don't know, man. And then I try a little test and then it doesn't work. I'm like, see, it didn't work, and then I'm like, go on to the next thing, like 2 degrees to the right. And that cycle repeats itself, just like you said, like 2 years later, my bank account's at the same, I just did a 360 and I didn't go anywhere, but when you hit the thing that works, even when you're not in the right financial position, even when, you got like $3 and no gas in the mental tank, you drink yourself to sleep, you overeat your feelings, and all these things that probably everybody has faced. When you find the right thing and it's the right thing, you'll go like, I'll steal the money to spend on ads if I have to, Don't quote me on that. I'm not advocating crime, but I will go and borrow money to run ads at this point if I had to. I'll go like, hey man, I'll go to some friend or something and be like, I need $20,000. For what? I need to run ads. Why? Because it works. And I'm out of runway, so give me $20,000, I'll pay you back, I'm only going to ask that to somebody that's actually going to trust me enough to do it. But like, I'm not afraid of that because I know this is the right way, and when you find that thing that's the right way, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's not a risk anymore. It's just a matter of leverage.
Yeah. What made you get to a point where you realized that was the right way? Like you were very confident like ads would work, or maybe if they hadn't even worked for you before, what made you kind of confident in that?
Well, and this is something I think that would be a great topic. We can go any direction that you want, But as far as there's a line in the sand for most entrepreneurs, and it's spending money to get clients. And most people just won't do it because it just seems like too much of a risk. Even though whatever they're doing, posting on socials or DMs or whatever, is a way bigger risk than spending $50 a day or whatever. But as far as spending money on ads, I got this guy, the media buyer, his name's Lorenzo, and I could never make ads work. I tried it and just lost all kinds of money. I hung out with Keith Krantz, and I met him through Perry. I don't know if you know who Keith is.
Yeah.
I hung out with Keith Krantz in like his cabin in the woods in Seattle for like a week. And I was like, man, Keith, you got to help me figure out these ads. And he's a wizard, and I went back and I'm running them and they failed. Like shit. And then I meet this guy, Lorenzo, and he's like, let me make these tweaks. And so we launched a low ticket product at the beginning of this year. And within 30 days, it hit 100K and cash collected. First 30 days. I'm like, oh, okay. I just needed to have the right guy in the seat, Right. And it needed to not be me. And we were able to do that in a way that was a minimal risk because we're spending like tiny amount of cash just to validate it. And then if it works, we'll just spend more, And then it worked. I'm like, great. It wasn't the product that I wanted to sell, but it's what people were buying. So cool. Right. So we took that, and I had already been kind of ad hoc offering this VA service to my clients and my friends and colleagues. And I thought, okay, well, let's put together a VSL and let's sell this with ads. And it blew up. Interesting. And the reason that it blew up was this is something I've been doing myself for 10 years. Like, I don't have to like invent the new wacky voodoo VA system. It's like, this is what I've already been doing. I don't have to come up with a new angle. I don't have to like trick you into buying my low ticket product. Like, I know exactly what I'm doing. And I feel that. And when I talk to people, I can tell they need it because they don't know what the next steps are. And again, not because they're dumb or irresponsible. It's just not something most people have spent 10 years doing. And so for me, it's like, okay, I just realized that I'm offering something that everybody needs and it actually makes a difference. and they're willing to spend money on it. So I'll push as many chips in as I can to make that work.
When it didn't work, do you think it was the offer? Like, what was the biggest change? Was it the offer? Like, yeah, when I met this guy Lorenzo, the way he ran ads was way different than mine. Like, what was kind of the pivot point for you? Because I know for me, I just wasn't really following up, and I didn't really understand that. And as soon as I started following up, like, people started swiping their cards like crazy. So for you, what was kind of that maybe the little tweak you made that made it work?
It was the offer.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, it was. I had all these wacky, like, oh well, everybody wants this random bullshit, and they don't. You know what they want? They want their problem solved, and they want confidence that it's actually going to work this time, because it didn't work any of those other times that they paid all of those other guys. They just want to know, like, hey man, I got this problem right here. Can you solve this problem? I don't even care what your name is. If you can solve this problem, you're my hero. Right? And I never really focused on that until we started really dialing in on the actual offer itself. And Lorenzo had worked with this really, really big name guy that I don't think that I can name publicly. He's written over 1,000 offers. He's run millions of dollars in ads. Wow. And he came with all of that experience and perspective to say, I'd show up with some like half-cocked idea, and he's like, "Yeah, no, we've tested $100,000 in ads on that, and that's just garbage, man. Don't do that."
Yeah, he kind of knew from experience.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I got to see this firsthand, because I worked with a lot of business owners over the years, and I get some clients who are like not very good, but their stuff would work really well. And I was like, man, like, this is kind of weird, like their funnels are kind of crap and their sales is kind of crap, but
it's a great offer.
Yeah. And then, that was kind of like when Hermosi's book came out, $100 million offers. And, so like I'm hearing what he's saying. And then I also have clients, and the cool part about working with a lot of business owners, you're able to gather data from all those offers. You can see what's working. And so I'd see a client get a 10x return, and I'm thinking, man, their funnel's pretty average. Like, they're not very good at sales, but the offer was just so good that it just really makes up for deficiencies. I tell people that all the time now, because like the more red ocean the offer is, it's not that it can't work. It's just you got to be a lot better at the skills. And so like two of my clients that stand out for sure is like one sells people how to get like I think they call it EBT1 green card. So it's like a way to get a green card. Another one helps kids get into Ivy League schools. And another one of my clients, they do kind of like day trading with like a bot, right? So it's like, people view it as like easy money, whatever. So like it needs to work. But the point is I would see that and their ads would just get astronomical returns. And I go, that's when it really started clicking for me. I was like, oh, like that's it. Because if you can take like a really good offer with a really good marketer, it makes all the difference from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's the same thing about, like right person, right environment. It's kind of that same argument. When I was doing some initial research for this VA company, I went out. I've got a lot of friends that do this, and they're very successful. Like most of them are successful, even if they are not that good. Like they're still making money. And so I'm talking to this one girl who runs a 7-figure VA placement service, and I asked her, because I'd known her for a while. I'm like, hey, what do you think was your key to success? Like, what do you think really stands out about this? What did you do differently? And she said, being a hot girl helps.
It's like, nice. That's helpful for me. I'll go do that right now.
I'm like, well, that's a disadvantage for me. But she has a point, right? Like what you were saying, like if you got a great offer, you can have mediocre marketing and mediocre processes. If you're a hot girl, you don't have to have much of a personality. You're probably going to get some free passes here and there, And so if there's one thing that you can do, aside from getting your ego out of the way, is come up with a really, really great offer that solves a very specific, painful problem for a very specific audience. And if you can do that, then you get a free pass on your copy being a little bit stale, or your creatives, or your button being green instead of orange, or whatever. Like that stuff matters way less.
Yeah. I would even take it a step further. So, something obviously in my career is like, I started a fitness company and that did well. And then I got into business consulting, and like, you start seeing all these offers that are good and they're great, but you don't know how to do it. Like the green card offer, I don't know how that works. Or like one of my clients gets someone into Ivy League schools. But I think what's also good to know is that if you learn, no matter what business you start a business, you learn how to run a business, ads, marketing, funnels, tech. if you get good at that, you can then, potentially if you want to go this direction, but then you can actually partner with these people who know how to do these specific things you don't, and you just do the business part, right? The operational part. And so that's obviously kind of the area I've stepped into, is where I find these unique offers and I'm like, dude, like if I come in there and just push a couple buttons, it's going to blow up. And so I think like really, even if you pick, let's say, a red ocean offer, like even just failing and learning these things, that sets you apart from a lot of people, because a lot of people just don't know how to run a business. Even the VC world or like the content creator world, it's surprising to me how little they know, right? Like
and you don't have to.
Right.
That's the thing, is you don't have to be like a business wizard to have a successful business. You just have to have that one thing that you're good at and go get somebody else to do it.
Yeah. So you said you mostly get clients with ads. Do you put any emphasis on like organic content, or do you do any of that? A little bit, not really?
Yeah. So the second thing that we found super successful is live events, and it's amazing. We've been conditioned with, since COVID, to everything's on Zoom and virtual summits and all of this stuff. But whenever you go out and shake somebody's hand, two things happen. Number one, you create this human, visceral connection with somebody that is 100 times more powerful than anything you would ever get on a Zoom. And so there's this opportunity to actually like truly understand each other on a human level. It's just not possible digitally. And it opens up the floodgates for tons of opportunity. The second thing that happens is, instead of all of this theory that you have in your mind about what you think your customer wants, you're looking at them and you're able to ask them, and you're able to see like the facial like contortion that they make when you're trying to explain your offer. You're like, oh shit, man, that doesn't make any sense. I got to fix it. And so going to those live events is really non-negotiable if you're trying to grow this thing. You've got to get in front of people, like human beings. I presented at this summit for home services on Tuesday, and there was like, I don't know, 100, 200 people there, and I did my presentation, and I could tell whenever I got that reaction from them, I'm like, okay, that point worked, and then when I got like silence, I'm like, all right, they don't care about that. Right? But the good thing was, afterwards, people came up to me and they're like, oh man, I loved your presentation. I need to get a VA. Yeah. And it's not like people on the internet are doing that. They're doing it because they saw me, because I shared energy with them. They felt it. They're like, oh man, you get me and you're right there. I'm going to talk to you. So like ads, live events, top two by far.
When you talk about, I would agree, first off. So live events, like if you get people in person, it's just way stronger because there's way more trust. But when you talk about live events, are these your live events, or you're usually a guest speaker at someone else's event?
This wasn't my event.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just speaking at it.
Okay, and is that like your normal strategy, or are you usually doing your own events?
I'm planning on going to as many other people's events as possible.
Okay, so
I'll pay them. I'll sponsor.
Interesting.
Whatever you need, as long as you got like 100 people there.
Okay,
I'll go and get on that.
So I think that's good for people to hear. If someone was trying to do what you're doing, they're like, hey, I want to start speaking at events. Do you have a process for that, like an outreach process, or like a list of people you're like, hey, like reach out to these people that you kind of try to set that up with?
I'll give you one right now. This has been super effective for me. So go to any website that has live events posted. So Eventbrite is an example.
Okay.
Go to Eventbrite, and a lot of times, if you're looking for a speaking gig, you'll send your press kit. You got your one sheet. You got your sizzle reel and all this stuff. You're just like bombarding people with whatever. I run a podcast, which you were on, by the way, about 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
You were like one of my first guests. Yeah. I've recorded over 300 episodes since. And so because I have a podcast, I get pitched 8 times a day for guests to come on my podcast. And it's just like all this AI drivel. It's just like 7 paragraphs of, when you were interviewing John Smith, it really touched my soul. And by the way, this is Bob Smith, and he wants to come on your show. And so like, I'm just like twitching, traumatized from all that stuff. But the good thing is I have a VA that reads them and takes care of it. Right. So I don't even see them anymore. Right. But I know how annoying it is, and I know most people don't have a VA. Yeah. And so go to Eventbrite, and here's the gist of the message that you want to get out. Hey, I see that you're doing an event on, if you're like want to talk about AI, don't try to pitch yourself at an AI event. Try to pitch yourself at a general business event and be the AI guy. If you want to talk about fitness, don't go to a fitness event. Go to an executives event and talk about how being fit helps you be a better, business leader or something. Find those events that are like kind of a 90-degree angle to what you need, complementary. Send them a message that basically says, hey, Bob, I see that you have this event coming up on XYZ. Looks like the kind of place that my name of your talk, benefit-driven name of your talk, could be a good fit for. But before I send you my sizzle reel and my press kit and all of those things, I just wanted to ask, are you even taking on other speakers right now? And I just want to be respectful before I bombard you with stuff you didn't ask for. Can you just let me know? Send. And the key is whatever you name your talk, it has to be like a new, unique, your audience is going to get this benefit from listening to my talk. Like this is a different way of looking at things. Like, for instance, I did something about AI a couple of years ago, and the name of the talk was, I think it was how to implement AI in your business even if you're not techie. And so it's like, I'm not going to come in there and just like overwhelm you with all of this tech nonsense. I'm going to say, here's the basics. And I got a flood, like at least 60% of the people I reached out to responded to that message. Even though it basically said nothing, I didn't tell them who I was. I didn't send my thing. They didn't have a picture of me. No website, no LinkedIn. It was just, are you even taking speakers? 60% of them responded to me. Most of them said, thanks, man, but we don't have any outside speakers, or we're full, maybe next time. But about half of those guys were like, yeah, man, we'd love to have you. Can you meet, can you come to this one that's like next Thursday or whatever? A lot of virtual stuff. But I got some in-person gigs too. And the thing about it is, it's just like, you're just curious. Like, this looks like a cool event. I might be able to contribute, but before we go any further, do you even have room? Like, is this even something we should talk about?
Yeah, I like that.
And it costs you nothing. You can send out 3 or 4 of those a day or a week, and somebody's going to say yes.
Oh, that's actually really smart. I wouldn't think to go to Eventbrite.
Yeah,
that's a pretty unique approach.
Now everybody's going to do it, and I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, we'll see. But I mean, that's pretty smart. And I like kind of what you just said is I'll tell my team it's like called push pull. So it's like, you make your offer, but then you kind of pull back. But like, I'm not trying to be pressury, and I'm not trying to make sure you got room. And like those usually do very well because it doesn't come off super salesy. Like it just comes off as like, hey, like I think I could do this, but like obviously if you don't want me or don't have room. So I think the approach is great. And when you go to those events, are you, I'm assuming because you're doing Eventbrite, they could be all over. So like, are you then, if it's in person, like you might be flying into like, I don't know, Florida or like.
I'll go anywhere.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would say is, I've never taken a speaking fee or anything. Some people have asked, like, oh, do you have a speaking fee? And I'm like, shit, what do I say? Should I say yes? How much should it be? Yeah. But hey, put me in front of your audience and let me do my thing. I'll make my money.
Usually,
I'll pay you.
Yeah, usually after you speak, is it just people like they just talk to you right at the event and sign up, or is it like they'll kind of start hitting you up and maybe they come through after the event? Like, what's like a normal cadence for that?
Yeah, it depends on I guess what the presentation, how it's created. I've never really done any kind of like run to the back of the room type of stuff. So it's very much like, here's my value proposition. I'm making the case for whatever I want to make the case for, and then at the end it'll be like a soft pitch. Scan this QR code to get this lead magnet, Or if you want to talk about this, scan the code and fill out the form, just something really basic like that. And then I stick around and people come up to me. I always wear like the presentation I did on Tuesday. I wore a big purple shirt with giant white letters that said, "Get someone else to do it." And dude,
I don't know why that makes me laugh. I'm just picturing it right now.
yeah, I got a picture. I sent you a video.
Oh, man,
yeah,
it's so funny.
that's what they were. I had everybody yell it at the end. That was the video I sent you. And
It's so funny.
but it was great because afterwards, and I had them say it, and like, all right, and what's the best way to get capacity? Get
That's
someone
funny.
else to do
That's
it.
hilarious, man.
Yeah, it worked.
And then, so I'm assuming, like when you're speaking, they're okay with you like pitching or something like that. Do you get permission, or do you just usually do it and like kind of ask for forgiveness if they don't?
No, I'll usually ask. I don't want to be that asshole.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like if they say specifically no pitching, all right, that's cool. But what I'll do in those situations is like, hey, if anybody's interested, I've got a free, lead magnet, value, whatever. Scan the code here, and you can grab it. It doesn't cost you anything, and ain't nobody going to get mad at that.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm going up there and I'm going to offer you some free resources, that's not pitching.
Yeah.
Then I can do my pitching later. But hack, wear a ridiculous shirt, and make people like literally. When I was speaking, I had the audience actually say it back to me several times. I would say the way I opened up the conversation was, you're wasting all this time, 36% of your work week, et cetera, et cetera. So what's the solution? And I knew everybody in their head was thinking AI. And so I'm like, all right, well, some people say AI might be the answer, but not so fast. We'll talk about that in a minute. I actually have a much simpler, low-tech solution. Anybody know what it is? And then they were like, get someone else to do it. Get someone else to do it. And I had them like, by the end, they were screaming it at me.
It's hilarious, man.
And so for the rest of the day, people would come up to me, great job. Yeah. Like, oh man, I was going to go over here and get some lunch, but I think I'm going to get someone else to do it.
Yeah, I like that too. And I think it stands out too when you make it fun or you make it funny, because a lot of times like people say like no one, when you die, like no one remembers what you did, they just remember how you made them feel. So I think if you can get people to feel emotion, whether it's laughter, sadness, happiness, whatever, like that always sticks out, because they'll remember you kind of by that. So I think that's a good frame you're using. So I want to move a little bit into personal life and so on and so forth. A lot of people, they want to know how entrepreneurs are like balancing. So you're a father, correct? Mm-hmm. So I don't know, if you're like the 16-hour work day or like you're less, like how do you try to find balance between like running your business at a high level, maybe pushing and growing it versus, balancing your personal life and your family?
It's an interesting question and an interesting timing. Yesterday, I interviewed this guy on a podcast, and his name was Mitchell Osmond. And I asked him a question because he runs this like a online community like Dad Nation or something, and so I asked him the question about balance, and we both kind of agreed once we got into the conversation that balance is a little bit of a myth, and the reason why is because balance to you, where you are in your life and who you are and how you grew up, means X. And balance to me, with all of my differences, means Y.
Right.
So it's like balance doesn't really exist. It's just kind of like, that's like your opinion, man. And then, so there's that side of it. But the other side of it is there are times when being off balance is actually healthy. Like there are times when, you might need to just grind it out for 16 hours for a while. And you might need to sacrifice that balance with your family. And then there are other times where you need to go the other way. So is that balance, or is it like strategic imbalance? I don't know. But for me, I do what I need to do, and I invest in my family and my people around me so that they understand, hey, I'm here, but I got to go over there and do some work. And I get that permission or forgiveness, whichever you want to put, to go and, bust out 16, 20 hours of work because I already deposited the quarters in all of those relationships. I do the same thing for my team as well. I don't clock their hours. I pay them a flat salary monthly. They have unlimited time off. Like they can take vacation if they want to. It's all fine. But I do that because sometimes I might need you to come in on Saturday and work 8 hours. And I've never had a problem with, unless they were just like absolutely unavailable. Like, hey guys, can you come in on Saturday? Because we really got to knock this out because the thing's on Monday. No problem, boss.
Yeah.
They're there.
Yeah.
Because I've already made those investments. Yeah. So I would say strategic imbalance would be my answer to that.
Yeah, I'm curious on your thoughts on this. I've had a staff as big as 100, and I think the worst piece of advice I ever got was, Tanner, your expectations are too high. Like people aren't like you, which I agree. But that was the worst piece of advice because it was kind of like, hey, like maybe don't hire so harshly or like don't be so hard on the hiring process. And then I started bringing people in who maybe on paper like didn't fit my standards, right? They didn't see the world the same way I did. And when I say that, just like not doesn't have to be everything, but like I value hard work. I value showing up on time, like stuff that does matter. And over time, I was like, dude, that was terrible advice because what happened is they come in, they don't do the good job. It ends up stressing you out and creating more anxiety, and then you're kind of babysitting, and it's like that's not really what I hired you for. I hired you so I didn't have to babysit. So it sounds like you kind of built that environment because I'll say now, like with my team, it's the best team I've ever had. And I kind of follow the same way as like, guys, here's what you need to do. Get it done. And if they get it done, I really don't say much because I'm like, if you can show me you're responsible and get stuff done, I don't really want to like sit there and like micromanage because I don't want to micromanage. Like you get micromanaged when you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So it sounds like you kind of create that environment as well. Yeah.
It's back to the original, like I'm not a super organized guy. I'm not like a great leader. I'm not a great manager. And so I'm always trying to kind of compensate for that by just creating the most positive and enabling environment possible with my relationships because, I suck at like responding to text messages. Like my mom calls me and I love my mom, but it's like I never find time to like hang out with her, But I make up for that because it's like she knows that I'm there if like I need her. And I do that same thing with my family and my people. Like I got you guys. I'm going to make this investment now because there's going to be some time down the road that I'm probably screwing something up. And I just want a little bit of that grace. Like giving that grace to somebody, like trust first. And instead of like, well, you better earn my trust. Nah, man, I brought you in. I trust you. I'm giving you that trust and I'm going to let you live in that trust however you want to live in it. And you'll demonstrate if you were worth that trust or not. Right. But I'm going to go ahead and give it to you because honestly, I don't have time to put you through the ranks of figuring out if you're worth the trust or not because I got more important things to do.
Yeah. I try to stick by the motto, like hire slow, fire fast because, if someone comes in, they mess up. Usually I sit them down, I'm like, hey, so like, do you understand like this need to happen? Yeah. Okay. Like, did you not do it because you chose not to, or like, do you not know what's up or like whatever? But I'm usually at this point, I'm like, look, I'm bringing you on to make my life easier. That's what you're getting the salary for. I kind of agree with you. Like, give them that trust first. But I guess I'm very quick when they don't show that or they don't show they're capable. Like, I'll put my foot down because what I think a lot of business owners do, at least like, I'd say ones that are like $100,000 a month. A lot of times, the people who get to $100,000 a month, I see this the most often. Very good CEOs in terms of work ethic. Like, they work the hours, they work hard, they're good at sales, all that stuff, and then they get stuck because they're just too soft with their team. Like, it's almost like they don't want to hold people to standards because they're, I don't want to hurt their feelings or whatnot. So anyways, going back to what you said, I just think that's a good framework. Like, you want to kind of give trust, but then just have some checks and balances in place where if they're not doing that, you can quickly move on it. Cause I think that's a mistake even I've made is you kind of like, you just tolerate stuff that like shouldn't be happening, and then it gets like worse, it gets worse, it gets worse, and then it starts to trickle down to the other members of the team because they're saying, well, Betty's doing that and John's doing that, and it almost like takes you from being a good leader into a bad leader because you're so tolerant, you're just allowing stuff that shouldn't happen in the first place.
And that probably applies to anybody that might be listening to this show. And the first thing that I would say to that is, first of all, acknowledge it if it's happening. Second of all, forgive yourself for letting it happen, even if it happened 10 times before, because you can't just sit there and keep kicking yourself in the balls, Like, forgive yourself for letting that happen, but then make the adjustment, make the fix. And if, 6 months down the road it happens again, forgive yourself again, and then make the fix again. Because, like, the only one that's with you through all of this is you, right? So you got to take care of yourself. If you're not doing the things that you need to do as a leader to lead your people, acknowledge it, forgive yourself, fix it, move on, and put the systems in place, get someone else to do it if you need to, and make sure that gets fixed moving forward.
Yeah. What's your plan kind of moving forward? Like, I don't know if you even look that far ahead. People, what's your 5-year plan, Tanner? I'm like, it doesn't matter because it's going to completely change probably in a couple of years. But,
yeah.
Like, where do you kind of see yourself going the next 5 to 10 years? You doing the same thing? You'd be kind of elevating to other stuff? Do you know?
Not really. That's pretty far in advance for me. But what I can say is in another, let's say 5 years, I expect to have all of these different things that I'm currently doing and turning the crank and involved in to have somebody else in place and for me to be like in Colombia or something, doing something else and checking in and making sure everybody's happy and stuff. But like, I want to build systems that operate without me. I'll work 16 hours a day for as long as it takes, 7 days a week, doesn't matter. But I'm doing that so that I can extract myself when I want to. Can't do it yet, but I'm working on it, getting there.
Yeah. Last thing I want to move into is what I call lightning round. So it's just some quick answer questions. You can take as long as you want on them. Best business book you've read in the last year?
Best business book. I love Atomic.
Or even book.
Well, I love Atomic Habits. I have it on a shelf right behind me so everybody sees it at all times. I have Atomic Habits and Never Split the Difference and The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Those are great.
They're all right there next to me so everybody sees them anytime they're on a Zoom call with me.
Yeah, I love those.
Those are my top 3.
Favorite failure that taught you more than your wins?
You went there. Favorite failure that taught me more than my wins. I spent 6 months trying to build this leadership coaching program that was just a complete bomb. It was such a flop. And I'll be quick because I know it's lightning.
No, you're good.
I had to reflect on this afterwards because I took it personally. So I'm like, I poured my heart and soul into this. This is everything that I am. This is what I stand for. But I packaged it up wrong. Like, people needed this. Entrepreneurs needed this. But I didn't know how to sell it. I didn't know how to position it. And I was tickling the wrong part of their brain. It was I was selling against their ego as opposed to with it. And I learned so much from dropping $50,000, $100,000 into this thing that just literally went nowhere. That, all right, I have to figure out, I know I'm right, but I have to figure out how to package it in a way that people will accept it. Nobody wants to take a pill, so we'll wrap it in bacon. I just got to figure out what that bacon is,
I'm glad you shared that because I think it's valuable for people to hear that. There's sometimes like people will come to me and they're like, "Hey, can I sell this?" And I'm like you can, but it may not be packaged the right way, or it's just not that compelling versus like other things. Mm-hmm. So I think that was I'm glad you actually brought that up because I think that's a good lesson for a lot of people because I've done that. I think a lot, yeah, and it's not a fun thing.
But the other thing about that is, like, I don't regret spending the time and the cash because it gave me the ROI I needed, which was the clarity to say, don't do that.
Yeah,
do this other thing instead.
Yeah. What's one skill you believe is underrated for business owners today?
Okay. I would say the the skill that's underrated for business owners today is delegation, and not just for a self-serving reason. You don't have to hire me. You don't have to hire my VAs. But if you're doing things that are below your pay grade, then you're really just robbing yourself. And you'll never get out of that. As long as you keep doing the things that are not worth your time, that's what your time will be worth. That's the most undervalued skill, I think. If you really, really want to grow and get to, if you're at level 1, you want to get to level 2, you need to delegate as much as possible, as soon as possible. And once you do that, everything changes. And until you do that, you're going to stay stuck and frustrated.
What would your 18-year-old self be shocked to hear today?
How little hair I have left.
I wasn't expecting that. That was a good one. Final question would be, what's a question I should have asked you that I didn't that would be helpful for the audience?
Yeah. Man, you asked good questions. I would have loved to have seen those in advance. Here's the question I think that you could have asked me that would be helpful is, what do you know about how people think and behave that can give you an edge? And the way that I would answer that is, first of all, if you run a business and that business involves you selling a product or a service to another human being, then you're doing yourself a disservice by not studying deeply human behavior and psychology. Like, go read a book that is not about business, but it's about psychology and how people act. Go read anything by Malcolm Gladwell. There's a book. Here's something. I was in this like horrible failing marriage, like very toxic relationship, and I was just desperately clinging on to try to save it. And she didn't want that. And so I'm just looking for all the resources I can. And there's this author, his name is Gay Hendricks. And he had a book that was, he was a 40-year couples therapist. And he has this book called 10-Second Miracles. And I'm like, I'll do whatever I can. So I buy this book. It was like $50. And I read it, and it didn't save my marriage, but it changed me. It changed the way I understood the world, because he dove really deep in like understanding how we're actually wired as human beings. It's like a lot of these relationship problems you have, maybe it's the wrong person, but you can't control how somebody else behaves. You can control how you react to certain things and how you behave. And you can start looking for and recognizing those signals that are triggered within you. Like he talked about, there are these chemical responses when you're angry, like your shoulders tighten up. When you're sad, you get this pain in your chest. When you're afraid, your stomach goes into a knot. And he would describe these. And if you think about it, like, well, your stomach goes into a knot because when you're scared, cortisol fills your brain and your digestive system grinds to a halt really quick, and I feel it. When you're angry, your shoulder muscles tighten up because you're getting ready for a fight. Like, this is all instinctual stuff that we don't think about. Like 95% of all of the actions and all the decisions that we make as human beings are not even conscious. They're not logical. It's all about that emotional reaction. And when you start understanding that, number one, you become a better leader. Number two, you kind of master control of self. And then number three, you understand how to communicate better with other people because they're just like you. And you're not manipulating them, but now you're like, why would this person call me up and say all these stupid things and I made them so much money and I did such a good job? They're just having an instinctual emotional reaction, and they may not even mean what they're saying. They're just like processing their emotions. When you start understanding that, you stop being angry and confused about the world and you start paying attention. You behave differently. You treat people differently. I mean, if we had another hour, I could go into that, but if that was one thing that you could really take away, is go dive deep in how people actually think and behave, like beyond the conscious level, like all of that chemical, like our heritage when we're out on the prairie, like getting chased by saber-toothed tigers, like all that's still in us. We're still that person. Once you embrace and understand that, everything changes.
Love that, man. Thanks for that share. If people want to find more out about you or work with you, where's the best places for them to go?
If you're interested in hiring a VA, you can go to VAIQ.net.
Awesome. Well, dude, thanks for coming on. Super pumped, like when I hear stories of someone like struggling for a long time, then turning it around, and can't wait to see where you go.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.